important speech.
Today, George Osborne began the job of redesigning Britain Lego brick by Lego brick. It's 5 years before he goes back to the electorate, some 1,800 days, but the best time to do it is now, the first 100 days. Today, George Osborne began the job of creating new model Conservative voters. With this shock move towards a living wage, traditionally left-wing territory, it allowed him permission to cut back tax credits, in the words of one senior Tory, to begin to dismantle Gordon Brown's welfare state. Many Conservatives have long felt that the Labour Party effectively bought the votes of people out there who needed tax credits to top up their pay. Now, in future years, Tories hope that many voters out there are just as dependent on them. This new Tory MP was once a nurse. Many of her former colleagues will be affected by the reduction in tax credits, but she's over the moon at today's move.
I think it's a massive deal because it's really set the tone for the next 5 years, and it's a Conservative budget this time. We won't have people like the Lib Dems saying, well, it's a good budget because of us. This is a good budget because of the Conservatives.
The Low Pay Commission will recommend future rises that achieve the government's objective.
The reaction of this man, Ian Duncan Smith, the Welfare Secretary, tells a story. For years he's tried to persuade George Osborne that it's right to cut welfare, but it has to be done in the way it was today, by protecting people on low pay. The Chancellor had been looking at a living wage move as much as a year ago, but insisted he'd only do it alongside cutting welfare. Since he was stopped from cutting welfare by the hue and cry of the Lib Dems, the whole package was stuck in deadlock. But the moment Tories won a majority, ministers told me they knew they had to act. Over the last Parliament, their biggest problem was the ideas suited Tories didn't understand working Britain. Many senior Conservatives believe that while they won the last election, they didn't actually win many of the arguments, that they were put into Downing Street because people were very scared of Nicola Sturgeon, not because people were very much in love with David Cameron. They think that if they're to win a proper majority by 2020, then they have to reach out to new voters. And to do that, a big part of it will be having something to say on low pay. Most post-election budgets are painful exercises. Giveaways normally come later in the electoral cycle. That this post-election budget brings some good news on low pay reflects a different approach by the Conservatives. A mammoth rebranding exercise.
The important thing is you need to set the framework of this Parliament. And announcing this now sends out a signal step that this is the matters that we are interested in and this is the journey that we're engaged on. This is not solved in a year or 18 months or 2 years, and gimmicks in the last 6 months of the Parliament don't normally work. What you need to do is you need to set out a long, clear direction of travel. That's what the Chancellor's done. I applaud him for it.
What's also significant about today's budget is that it makes it a little bit more likely that that man makes it into that building by the end of this Parliament. He's audaciously raided Labour's territory on banks, on skills and apprenticeships, and most famously now on the living wage. But also, in going for this living wage policy, he has stolen the territory of his main rival to go into that building, Boris Johnson. George Osborne's 7th budget appears to have been his most impressive. Arguably, it's the one that could matter most to him too. He's not just setting a direction of travel for the Tory party during this Parliament, but perhaps he's setting himself up to lead that party through the next Parliament as well.